So in the last video, we talked about maybe getting at some of the cons of using Google Scholar. And this morning, I received a question from one of your classmate colleagues asking is everything in Google Scholar peer-reviewed? And the answer is a resounding no. And I think she knew that answer as well. So it's just an important limitation of Google Scholar that we really need to address. And it's a big limitation of Google Scholar that makes it somewhat different than some of the other search engines that we'll cover that are often available through library resources through subscription. Google Scholar is free to anybody who has access to Google. And when you pair Google Scholar up with being at a university in some cases, some things may actually become fully available because it knows you're synced up at a library. With that said, let's look at some of the major limitations. And I'll pick on one of my publications here. So I can click on the Cite It By feature, which is actually a really helpful feature, especially if you're trying to figure out who's doing research on a given area. And with some of the really strong research articles, you might see 70, 80, 100 citations. This particular one says it's been cited by 12, but who are the 12? I'm sure they're all wonderful pieces of scholarship, or I hope that they are, but they're not all peer-reviewed, and not everything that shows up here right now is peer-reviewed. In the previous video, I clicked on that one and it took you to a technical report that's got a lot of helpful, great information, but it's not a peer-reviewed journal article. So when I click on this Cite It By 12, they're not all the same. So this one, Journal of Agricultural and Food, and I'd have to open it up. You know, it's an ACS publication. It's probably a pretty good peer-reviewed journal. And then there's an East and Central African Journal of, I'm not for sure what it is, but I have to open it up. But there are a variety of these technical reports that have been produced by the 3R Kenya Project group. Those are gray literature. They're not peer-reviewed journal articles. So they've cited it several times. There's this article here that is linked to a library. I can click on it and see what it is. So it's a staff publication from this university. It may actually be a recite of one of these previously known gray literature ones. So there's a lot of citations from that group that are showing up. Here's another one. You know, a lot published by this particular research university. Here's another one by International Livestock Research Institute. So this is a gray literature document. This is not peer-reviewed, but it's something that a person could theoretically cite as part of a paper or a dissertation or something. It's just not, it's not peer-reviewed. I'm going to pick on myself a little bit. If I go to my profile and I start looking at some of the things that are cited on here under my profile, I've got some commentary articles that are on here that were related to, you know, the position that I had. You know, they're helpful forms of scholarship, but they're not peer-reviewed. There are articles in the Journal of Environmental Health that are peer-reviewed, but this particular one was not peer-reviewed. It was a commentary article. An assessment of disinfection-related water chemistry at public pools and spas, you know, this particular one is an actual research article. You'd have to actually look at it to tell. Here, changes in student behaviors and attitudes regarding e-cigarettes and policies at Kentucky University. This particular article that has a couple of our MPH students on it, it's not really actually an article. It's just documenting that the abstract was accepted by the American Public Health Association, and here's the information. So APHA does a peer review process on their articles, but it's not the journal, it's not the American Journal of Public Health. The American Journal of Public Health is APHA's official publication. But these are also official forms of scholarship, and people do periodically cite, you know, APHA's various meetings. I'm going to search Google Scholar for this to see, and I clicked on it so you can see periodically this special session here has had several citations. So you can actually get people citing conference proceedings. It's important to know, though, that not all conference proceedings are peer-reviewed. Sometimes conference proceedings do get peer-reviewed in various ways. So I'm going to pull up an example. Let's go to this particular one. Associations between county-level land cover classes and cyanobacteria blooms in the United States. So this particular publication appeared in the Elsevier Journal, Ecological Engineering. That's the free version that's out there, and I'll talk about the free version here in a little bit. But when I look at that publication that was there, this particular publication was part of a series of articles that were from Eco Summit in 2016, and the presenters were asked to submit their presentations and their papers for peer review. And not all of the articles submitted to Ecological Engineering as part of this particular special edition with Dr. Bill Mitch as the editor, not all of them were satisfactorily peer reviewed. In fact, I submitted 2 publication requests, or 2 manuscripts. One of them was accepted, one of them was rejected. And that's life. That's how peer-reviewed processes are supposed to work. So it's important to kind of know the difference. It's hard sometimes to know the difference. If you've got questions, feel free to ask me. For your first assignment, we want to just use peer-reviewed articles. Thus far, there are no predatory publishers out there pretending to be conferences. So you don't have to really worry about it. Usually if it's a conference, it's pretty apparent what it is. So if you've got questions on this, feel free to reach out to me. I know that there's some nuance here in trying to figure out what's peer-reviewed or not peer-reviewed. But coupling a lot of these factors together, understanding kind of the H5 index, does it look like a journal? If it walks like a duck and looks like a duck, it's probably a duck. That helps. It's the predatory journals, the fake journals, the faux journals, the pay-for-play journals that you have to watch out for. And usually those journals thus far have not been getting well cited, and Google actually does a pretty good job kicking a lot of them out. So the International Journal of Advanced Computing Technology is one that we've beat up before, Google Journal Metrics, and maybe they've changed since that example. They're not even showing up on Google. The International Journal of Advanced Computing Technology, whatever. You don't see them on there. So Google has banished them. So I clicked on their association or whatever their website is. Here it is. They've got their bogus impact factor up there. International Journal of Advanced Computer Technology. International Journal of Advanced Computer Technology. They're not there. Google banished them. So somehow Google knows how to pull out the fake from the real. So in our next few videos, we're going to start looking at some other databases that are out there that you may benefit from.